You've heard someone say it. Maybe at a dinner party, on a first date, or maybe you've even said it yourself. Someone asks, "What are your beliefs?" And the answer comes back, "Well, I'm not really religious, but I'm a very spiritual person." Spiritual, but not religious. It's one of the defining phrases of our time. For some, it's a thoughtful declaration of independence from dogma and institutions. For others, it's a vague, non-committal shrug. But it's not just a passing trend. It's a massive cultural earthquake. The number of Americans who identify this way is skyrocketing, making them one of the fastest-growing faith demographics in the nation. They don't have a holy book, a central church, or a formal leader. Their sacred spaces might be a yoga studio, a hiking trail, or the quiet of their own mind. So what exactly is this new, unorganized faith? Is it a profound evolution in human spirituality? A movement that takes the best from all traditions and discards the worst? Or is it a shallow, self-centered mixed spirituality, a faith of convenience for an age of consumerism? Today, we are exploring the rise of America's fastest-growing faith. We'll uncover the history, the beliefs, and the controversy behind being spiritual but not religious. Before we dive deep, let's look at the numbers, because they are staggering. For decades, social scientists have been tracking the rise of a group they call the Knowns. People who, when asked for their religious affiliation, checked a box for nothing in particular. In the 1970s, the Knowns were a tiny fraction of the US population, around 5%. Today, they are approaching 30%. That's a revolutionary shift, but none doesn't necessarily mean atheist. In fact, the majority of the Knowns, around 2/3 of them, don't say they are atheists or agnostics. Instead, they say they believe in God or a higher power. They are the spiritual but not religious, or SBNR. So what do they believe? It's defined more by what it rejects than what it affirms. The core rejection is of organized religion. The SBNR individual typically sees organized religion, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, as rigid, dogmatic, and institutional. They see a history of corruption, hypocrisy, and violence. They are turned off by the hierarchy. The exclusive truth claims our way is the only way, and the focus on ancient texts that seem irrelevant or morally questionable to a modern mind. In place of this, they embrace a personalized spirituality. They believe in a transcendent reality, a connection to something larger than themselves, whether it's called God, the universe, source, or cosmic energy. But this connection is personal. It doesn't need a priest, a rabbi, or an imam to mediate it. The emphasis is on inner experience, personal well-being, authenticity, and finding your own truth. It's a spirituality of the self. The ultimate authority is not a book or an institution. It's your own intuition and your own lived experience. Now, it might seem like this is a brand new 21st century phenomenon, a product of the internet and the decline of traditional institutions. But the roots of SBNR are deeply, authentically American. This isn't a new invention. It's the culmination of ideas that have been part of the American spiritual landscape for over 200 years. The first seeds were planted by the Transcendentalists in the 1830s and 40s. Thinkers like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau were America's original SBNRs. They rejected the rigid Calvinism of their day. Emerson wrote in his essay, Self-Reliance, "Trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string." He argued that the divine could be found not in a church, but in nature and within the individual human soul. When Thoreau went to live by Walden Pond, he was making a spiritual pilgrimage to find God in solitude and nature, not in a pew. Then, in the late 19th century, came the New Thought movement. This was a uniquely American spiritual philosophy that emphasized the power of the mind. Thinkers like Ralph Waldo Trine wrote about the power of positive thinking, and the idea that your thoughts create your reality. This laid the groundwork for the modern focus on manifestation and wellness. And then came the 1960s counterculture. This was the moment when Eastern spirituality crashed into the American mainstream. Young people, disillusioned with mainstream society, began to explore Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism. Figures like Alan Watts popularized Zen. The Beatles went to India to study with the Maharishi. Suddenly, concepts like karma, reincarnation, meditation, and mindfulness entered the American vocabulary. And of course, yoga began its journey from a niche spiritual practice to a mainstream wellness activity. Combine these three streams: transcendentalist self-reliance, new thoughts focus on the mind, and the Eastern practices from the 60s, and you have the DNA of modern spiritual but not religious identity. So if there's no holy book and no church, what does this faith actually look like in practice? It's a highly individualistic, do-it-yourself spirituality. The SBNR individual acts as a spiritual curator, a DJ, mixing and matching from a vast buffet of beliefs and practices to create a personalized spiritual playlist. The sacred texts are not ancient scriptures, but might be a TED Talk by Brené Brown on vulnerability, a podcast by Sam Harris on mindfulness, or a self-help book like The Power of Now. The spiritual practices are drawn from all over the world. They might start their day with a 10-minute guided meditation on the Calm app, drawing from Buddhism. Then they might go to a yoga class, drawing from Hinduism. They might read a book on Stoic philosophy for guidance on resilience, drawing from ancient Greece. They might believe in the power of manifestation and the law of attraction, drawing from New Thought. Their moral code is often a kind of secularized Judeo-Christian ethic. Be a good person, be kind, the golden rule. But it's stripped of its divine command. You're kind not because God commanded it, but because it promotes well-being and positive energy. The gurus are not priests or prophets, but wellness influencers, life coaches, and thought leaders. The community is found not in a physical congregation, but in online forums, workshops, and retreats. It's a spirituality perfectly suited for a consumerist, individualistic, and digitally connected age. But not everyone is a fan of this new spiritual landscape. The SBNR movement has faced some sharp criticism, both from traditional religious believers and from secular thinkers. The most common critique is that it's a shallow, narcissistic, and commitment-free spirituality. Critics call it mixed spirituality, or the faith of the unchurched. The argument is that it takes all the comforting and aesthetically pleasing parts of religion, the sense of wonder, the calming rituals, the feeling of connection, while conveniently discarding the difficult parts. Traditional religion makes demands on you. It asks for commitment to a community, even when you find the people annoying. It asks for adherence to a moral code, even when it's inconvenient. It asks for service, for charity, and for sacrifice. It asks you to confront suffering and evil in the world. The critique of SBNR is that it can easily become a spiritualities of convenience, focused entirely on self-fulfillment. Feeling stressed? Meditate. Feeling anxious? Do some yoga. It's about making you feel better. But where is the call to serve the poor? Where is the demand for social justice? Where is the framework for dealing with tragedy and injustice that can't be solved with positive thinking? Some critics argue that by making your own intuition the ultimate authority, SBNR offers no way to distinguish between genuine wisdom and simple self-indulgence. If it feels good, it must be true. This, they argue, isn't a path to enlightenment, but a path to narcissism. So, what's the verdict? Is being spiritual but not religious a profound evolution or a shallow dead end? The answer is, it's probably both. It is undeniably the signature faith of our time, a reflection of our culture's deep individualism and its distrust of institutions. For many, It is a genuine and deeply meaningful path. It's a way to connect with the transcendent and live an ethical life without the baggage of dogma and history that they find alienating. It has opened up a world of spiritual technologies like mindfulness that have brought real, measurable benefits to millions. But it also reflects the logic of the consumer marketplace. It treats spirituality as a product to be curated and consumed for personal benefit, rather than a tradition to be inherited and a community to be served. Ultimately, spiritual but not religious is a grand, uncontrolled American experiment. It is the religious impulse set free from the container of religion. What it will evolve into next is a story that is still being written. So what do you think? Is a DIY spirituality a more authentic path for the modern world? Or does it miss something essential by rejecting the structure and commitment of organized religion? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this exploration of our changing spiritual landscape interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the ideas that define our era. Thanks for watching.